Good morning and happy Friday. This is just a quick video to show you a few hints and tips about your research paper that you are starting up today. So, in your Google Classroom, you should see the post for the day, the research intro paragraph. Your view will look a little bit different than mine, but you should have these three links and an additional link that has this video in it. So the first link that's on there is what you're going to be typing on itself. It should be blank, but I have set it up so that it is in 12-point font. It's in Times New Roman font. It should already be set up to be double-spaced. 1-inch margins, so you shouldn't have to edit anything as far as the formatting of the document. And then the second link in there is the instructions and an example. My recommendation as you are working on these, if you can, shrink them down a little bit and then put them side by side. So you can be typing right alongside where the instructions are and where the example is to make sure that you've got everything that you need. But however works for you is fine. So in the paper itself, you'll ignore this very top part here. This is just to show you that that's the instructions there. You're going to have your name, teacher's name, class name, which is the grade, not your hour, and then the due date, which is day, month, year, a space in between each, no commas, nothing like that. Please, for the teacher's name, spell my name correctly. You could, if you wanted, just copy and paste this bottom part here and then just change your name into your document. If you do choose to have a title, the title is optional as it says here, but if you do choose to have one, please make sure it's not bold, it's not italicized, it's not underlined, it's not a different font size, you're not seeing any extra space before or after the date and when the paper begins. It just blends right in with everything else. The only thing that you do differently with it is that you center align it rather than have it left aligned. So you're going to start off your intro paragraph with an attention grabber of some sort. You can choose a quote, a statistic, a very short story. Please avoid using a question to begin your paper. Back in 5th, 6th grade, you might have used questions to start off your papers, but since we are about to move into high school, I'm trying to push you to use a stronger way of beginning your paper. Just make sure that, and you are welcome for the quote, statistic, or story, you are certainly welcome to just do a Google search, Holocaust quotes, Hitler quotes, Oskar Schindler quotes, statistics about Auschwitz. It's entirely up to you what you want to use. Just make sure that you, for the citation, that you do include the website that you found it from. Next, color-coded in blue, your second couple of sentences in your intro paragraph will be a very general overview of what your paper is going to be about. You're not going to introduce your 3 specific topics yet. You're just going to reference that it's the Holocaust and provide a brief background of that. How I've explained it before is if you had to explain to an elementary student what the Holocaust was in 1 or 2 sentences, what would you say? That should force you to simplify it and keep it brief enough because you'll get into the more detailed elements later on in your body paragraphs. Then you'll finish up with a thesis statement. That is where you introduce your 3 topics. Again, you're not going to go into detail about them yet. You're just going to introduce what they are. But please avoid saying, my 3 topics are, my paper will cover, I'm going to talk about. Like I said, you might have introduced papers or had that type of phrasing in 5th or 6th grade, but we are trying to go for a more sophisticated way of introducing them. So try to show how they're connected or related in some way. I realize the thesis will probably be some of the more challenging element of this intro paragraph. So if you don't have it worded perfectly right off the bat, that's fine. You might have to come back to it. For the thesis, if you want to break it into a couple of sentences, that would be fine as well. But since they all have to do with the Holocaust, they should be connected or related in some way, shape, or form. So try to show that connection and take a look at my example that I have down here for reference for how to do that. The example that I have at the bottom of your instructions is related to World War II, but it doesn't have to do with the Holocaust. That way no one can copy it, not that any of you would ever do that. So I chose to do an example having to do with the atomic bomb. I have a title here. Again, you don't need one. You don't need to phrase it as a question. I just did because that's how it wound up being phrased, so I went with that. Your first part is your attention grabber. So one of the quotes that I remember about that I chose to look up is, "Now I'm become death, destroyer of worlds," wrote Robert Oppenheimer after witnessing the first nuclear explosion. And then make sure that you've got your website that you use. A lot of times I see students introduce it like this with a dash, because usually when you look up quotes, especially if they're images, that's how it will be presented. But please use some sort of verb. Thought, stated, believed, claimed, something like that. Use a verb in there to make it a complete sentence rather than a fragment. The next couple of sentences, again, is the overall background of your topic, not your specific 3 topics, but what your paper will be about, the Holocaust. Mine has to do with the atomic bomb, so I said, dropping the atomic bomb ended World War II by forcing Japan to surrender. However, there is debate as to whether it was necessary to end the war or if other targets could have been chosen instead. If I had 2 sentences to explain what the atomic bomb is all about, that's probably how I would phrase it. Then for the thesis statement, that's the last part here. I'm going to introduce my 3 topics, but I'm not going to say my 3 topics are. I'm going to show how they are connected. So I have the Manhattan Project was the effort to create a nuclear weapon, which was first tested at Alamogordo, New Mexico, with Wernher von Braun helping develop the rockets that could carry a nuclear weapon. So I've got my other topic first, I've got my place second, and I've got my person third. It's up to you which order you want to arrange them, but please make sure that whatever order you have for your thesis statement, that's the order that your paper will go in. So since I have other topic, place, person, my first body paragraph would be Manhattan Project, my second body paragraph would be my place, Alamogordo, and then my third would be my person. So just order them in the order that you're going to have them in your paper, but it doesn't matter to me if you go person, place, other topic, or reverse it, or whatever combination you want. If you do have any questions, or if you are struggling with any of the elements for it, my Zoom meeting is 9:30 today. You can also post a comment off to the side in the private comments section, and I'll try to get to those as quickly as I can. Otherwise, have a great weekend.